This is a Double Face, a true crime podcast. Please make sure to follow, like, and subscribe and get the notifications when a new episode drops. Please help by leaving a 5-star review. It helps the small podcasters like ourselves. Thank you again. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Oli Olis, hey guys, I'm Jose.
Hi guys, I'm Melissa.
Every time. Híjole Dios.
I'm gonna get used to it one of these days. Because I'm just looking at you like, okay, I'm ready.
I know, every time I look at the camera, I'll stop. I'm like, chingao.
Sorry.
It's okay. So today, before we start, I kind of wanted just to, do you want to talk about anything?
I mean, I know we actually met up this time, Monday sometime this week. And so we caught up and I was telling him how I went out, Saturday, and it was an epic fail. I think so for you as well, right? We just didn't have a good weekend this weekend.
It was alright. It wasn't anything great.
And I actually wanted to drink, listen to some music, just chill, and nope, didn't happen.
But me either. I was just like, I want to go home. Mm-hmm. I want to just be home. Well, anyway, let's get to the podcast. So today's episode is about David Carter. And Melissa doesn't know anything about this episode. So David Carter, he was a tall man, like 6'4" tall. And I went to go because I did a little bit of research when, because he was, at the time, I thought he had a Facebook. So sure enough, I went to go look for a Facebook to kind of feel out who he is. So he was athletic, he was fun, he was loving, but he was a serious guy still, nonetheless. Very handsome, to be honest. I was like, ooh, that's a looker, ain't he? He was very handsome. He worked at a manufacturing job, but that wasn't enough for him. He wanted to have his own business. And so he started his own clothing line, which is really neat because I was like, oh, that's really not. I mean, I like that people are pursuing different goals, right? Mm-hmm. As he's making his money. He's not dumb. He's like, I got to get that 9 to 5 and then I can start my own business. Yeah. So I started watching Unsolved Mysteries because this is how I came across it. Unsolved Mysteries was talking about this episode of David. And it was stating how not only did he also pursue his goals, but that he was driven. So they showed a video. Okay. In the video, it shows David talking with his own voice, and I love it because normally we don't get to hear that from victims. And in it, he's like, hey, I just want to let you know that I am goal-oriented. And it wasn't like for a match or anything. He was just talking on his Facebook. And he says, I'm goal-oriented. He goes, and when I accomplish one goal, I go to the next one. I just got to keep moving. And that's the kind of guy he was. He was very caring. He was really close to his family. His sister was like one of his best friends. Okay. And that's who he was all around. He did have in the video, one thing that he said in the video, I thought it was really interesting. He goes, and I love Faygo cream soda.
Faygo cream? I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of it either. I don't know if it's a different race thing.
Well, it's not a Texas thing.
Plus Latinos, we don't know. I don't know.
I don't.
I asked a couple of other people that are as Latino, because we're both Latinos. Mm-hmm. Do you know what Faygo is? And they're like, who? What? We know what Topo Chico and all that good stuff is, but I've never heard of it. Mm-hmm. Leave it in the comments if you have. Anyway, but he loved Faygo cream soda. I looked it up and it was just a clear bottle. I'm gonna have to go get some just to try it out. Anyway, he loves sports. That's one thing on his entire Facebook is sports. Basketball, football. Like it was all around. Yeah. He was a very clean guy too. You could, some men that just take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. That was David Carter. Kept himself clean. His outfits always looked put together, honey, and very nice and crisp. He was the kind of guy that irons his clothes, honey. Not like us.
Well, you iron. I kind of dumb. I got the dryer.
Me too. Once in a while, I'll throw that bad boy in there. Yeah. Vámonos. Well, he met his longtime best friend, and he happened to be a woman. Which her name was Angela Curry. They were like thick as thieves, but it was nothing sexual. She said, we were just best friends. That's it. We didn't pass that line. She stated that he was such a kind guy, and also mentioned that he was a family guy. Well, one day at the age of 20, David met a girl named Samir Carter. She was instantly attracted to him, honey, just the way I was. He was handsome.
I'm so curious to see what he looks like.
I'll show you after this. So they went on a date, and they just instantly got together. They went on a few dates, and they were like, this is working. And they worked it out. They were together from the years of 2000 to 2014.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so they were together quite some times.
Yeah.
But in between that time, they had a son named David, DJ Carter. So I'm going to mention DJ throughout and I'm just going to call him DJ because it'll get confusing.
Yeah.
Samir said that he was so excited when he came out, when he said, because I guess they didn't have like what they do now.
A gender reveal. And then the baby shower.
I'm just real bitter about it. Well, they waited till the very end, and when she had the baby, he came out yelling at the top of his lungs, I have a boy, it's my son, I have a son. He said that was his pride and joy. And he took pride in the way he just cared for his son. He wasn't one of those guys. He took care of his responsibilities. And
good.
Well, Samir did say, look, at the end of it, we ended up breaking up. We were on and off for about 14 years. But at the end of it, he was very committed to being a co-parent. He was like, I'm going to be there, whatever we need to do. You got those days, I've got these days. We'll be there at the football game. Anytime he had an event, his son, he was there.
That's so good. It's so healthy for children to see their parents co-parent in such a healthy way. I cannot express that enough. Like it brings a different side of what children grow up to see when your parents get along.
I agree, and it tells you a lot, but it also tells you how he was raised. His dad and his mom, because they were still together, and they were always present. You know that family that is constantly, it's not just like the dad shows up to the
It's like the whole family.
It's the whole family.
Yeah.
His sister, her husband, the dad, the mom, like it's this whole thing. And I appreciate families like that. It's beautiful to see.
It is.
And that automatically tells you who he is. So on March 2018, David was at a friend's party, and he ran into an old high school buddy named Tammy. And Tammy was just somebody that, you know how it is. You go back and you see somebody and you're like, I got my chance, now I'm going to hit that.
Old feelings come back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've been to our high school reunion.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to see other people.
It was, I mean, social media plays a different part now, but back then, could you imagine, social media was just coming on. So it was fun to see people, and it's been years.
Even to this day, when you see them, it's just really nice.
Yeah.
Well, Tasia Carter Jackson, who is David's sister, who is also like his best friend. They were also like thick as thieves. His sister recalls that David, brought Tamara Renee Williams, which is Tammy. So I'm going to call her Tammy so it doesn't confuse anyone. Introduced her to the family, and she was like, okay, who it is? But she remembered, so she just said, okay, it's one of those moments where she said it's like an eyebrow raise. It is what it is. Even the dad said, I'll never get in the way of my kids' relationships. They're going to be who they want to be with, and I'm just their parent, and I'm going to love them. Yeah. That's it. Because sometimes you just have to have those boundaries.
You have to, yeah.
And I like that approach. So Angel's best friend, as I mentioned, which is David's best friend, describes Tammy as somebody bubbly, because they were friends back in high school.
Oh, okay.
And that she was bubbly, and that she's the kind of girl that you can trust. Well, at least back in high school. She said, because after we went to high school, we ended up just doing where they stopped being friends. Because, of course, They went to college and they went separate ways, and you know that happens. So as I'm watching Unsolved Mysteries, and they go into the like great detail about what happens, his son does mention that Tammy started to become more present. So DJ said, you know, it's weird. I guess my dad really, really likes her. He's gonna, cause she's showing up almost every single day to every single thing. So when I'm with my dad, she shows up. We go somewhere, she shows up. He goes, so I just figured this is the woman that he's gonna marry, because she's just getting more and more involved. So Tammy, at this point, is showing a little more like the obsessive qualities. Like if he spoke to someone else, she would stare and like stare daggers at the person he was talking to. You know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
we've come across the people that are insecure like that, or can't deal with the fact that you're having a conversation with someone else. And that's that kind of like she's showing more and more her possessive and controlling behavior. So on September 30th, 2018, 6 months after Tammy and David have already been together, David sent his ex Samir a text which said, "Hey, I thought I was over this, but or over this cold, but I'm sick and hell, throwing up and shitting. It's hot, no voice, and I don't think DJ should come over tonight." And so remember that Samir is his ex. So of course they have that relationship where they're going to converse with each other. He's like,
they have to, because they have a child together.
and because they've done really good co-parenting, she's like, okay, no worries. You know, I understand. Do you need anything? Kind of that question. He's just like, no, I'm good. But the only thing is that DJ at the same time was texting the dad, "Hey dad, I tried calling you and no response." He goes, what? I need to go get some, like nothing. And so he does respond finally to his son, and he says, "I won't be able to answer the phone because I can't really talk. I'm really sick." So DJ's like, "Okay, dad, I understand." But DJ then turns to his mom, Samir, and says, "Hey, should I go to the house? I need to pick up he had a few items like his charger and items like that. And you know, a teenager, honey, you can't be without that phone.
Yeah.
If we can, and we're adults, I can't even imagine." She's pointing at me. I can't even imagine a teenager. So he was like, "Mom, I've got to go pick up my stuff. I'm just going to go to the house." Mind you, this is on a Sunday. And so she's like, "Yeah, just go see how your father is. You know, be careful." So DJ then makes his way to his dad's apartment. As he makes his way into the apartment complex, he runs into Tammy. It's weird. Tammy's walking towards the trash can, right? So she's carrying a trash bag, and she throws it as she's passing DJ. DJ tells her, "Hey, hey, what's up?" And she doesn't say anything to him. She throws that trash bag and then runs. Mind you, he's a young guy. He's like a track star, a football player, handsome as well. Like he can outbeat her if he really wanted to.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's a teenager, and he's just probably thinking like what the fuck is she running for?
Yeah.
And so he doesn't make anything of it. But she's running, makes it to the apartment, and DJ's like, "Okay, whatever. She saw me. We said hi, or I said hi. She ignored me, so whatever." Well, he then goes up to the apartment door, and he turns the knob, and he notices, why is it locked?
Yeah.
It's weird. She just saw me.
Yeah.
Why didn't she leave it unlocked? So he grabs his key, because of course he has a set of keys to his dad's house or apartment. He unlocks it, opens it, and as he's making his way into his apartment, it's eerily quiet. And DJ knows how his dad is. And the first thing that he noticed is that his dad's room is closed. The door's closed. And he's like, that's weird. But he's also a teenager, and you know he's probably not thinking anything twice.
Yeah.
So he tells Tammy, hey, I just need do you know where, because she happens to be in the kitchen washing something. He doesn't know what, but she's just washing whatever. So he's assuming dishes. And he turns to her, he goes, hey, do you know where my charger is? Or anything. And he starts asking like a list. And she's like, no, I don't know. She then walks to the restroom and closes it. And let me tell you something. You know that kind of person in your family that you don't like? Like when your siblings are dating somebody. And I'm just saying this on the side note. I know, allegedly, one of my siblings was dating a woman I didn't like. I didn't trust her. I didn't like her. Anytime I was around, I almost shut down and didn't converse. Well, I feel like that's that kind of relationship that was unspoken with DJ. He had like a quick conversation. He wasn't really feeling it. He grabbed his stuff in the living room, put it in a bag, and as he was going to walk out, he was like, you know what, let me go and talk to my dad. Tell him, hey, I'm here. If you need anything, It is what it is. So as he was walking towards the door, she then looks and tells him, hey, what's up? What's going on? Oh, I'm just going to say hi to my dad. And she's like, oh, he's not here. Yeah, he left. And she's like, oh. And he thinks to himself, this is so weird. Why would he leave on a cold day? Mind you, our Septembers in San Antonio are still hot.
Yeah.
Not theirs. Their Septembers are already getting cold. He's like, he's sick. Why would he be out there? It didn't make sense. This is in Michigan, by the way. Sorry if I didn't mention
Yeah,
that.
I was like, where's this at?
Sorry, I forgot that I didn't say that. But this is in Michigan. So he's not really piecing things together, but something instinctually is telling him, don't open the door to his dad's room. Because he was still going to peek in there, right? But he said, no, I'm just going to leave. And so he does. DJ makes his way out the door, doesn't think twice, and goes and heads back to his house. So, mind you, this is on a Sunday. Sunday rolls around, and his friend, Roger Davis, who has been his friend for about 19 years, says, David is a hardworking guy, and he is not going to miss any days. He's not going to miss days just because he's not that kind of guy. He is very devoted and dedicated to his job and to his extra jobs and to his kid. He's just going to be present. He said, but Sunday came around, and that was the day that he was going to do a double shift and double time. So, excuse me, sorry. I'm burping over and over. But as you know, because Melissa's like that. Melissa will put the overtime and the extra time, and you've done it, right? Because you have kids you have to support. So Roger thinks to himself, well, that's weird. Let me call him.
Yeah.
He calls. He doesn't get an answer. He texts. Doesn't get an answer. So he's like, well, it is what it is. He'll get back. He'll come back. Maybe he's sick. Well, fast forward 2 days later, it's Tuesday, and Roger's like, wait, he still hasn't showed up. This is 3 days that David hasn't showed up. Seems a little odd. Let me call his sister Tasia. Mind you, they've been friends, and he knows, who do you call? Tasia. Tasia's the go-to. Tasia's the best friend. Tasia's the sister. She's going to find out the answers. So he tells Tasia, hey, Tasia, it's 3 days. He hasn't came to work. Is everything okay? Can you go to his apartment? He tells her. So she's like, yeah, of course. I'll go to his apartment. No problem. But something in Tasia tells her, first, call, and then we'll see if anything's. So Tasia calls her brother, David, and she's like, straight to voicemail. And she's like, this isn't making sense.
Yeah.
So Tasia says, okay. She tells her husband, hey, come with me. Let's go to this apartment. Let's see what's going on. So Tasia then makes his way to the apartment complex. Derek is her husband. And Derek's like, oh, he must be okay. There's his car.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know how, if let's just say you were worried about somebody. If you saw their car outside their home, then the first thing you're going to think is, oh, okay, he's just,
fine. Yeah.
he's fine. He just didn't pay attention to the phone. As they're making their way into the door, they knock. Nothing. They knock again. Nothing. And they're like, well, that's weird. He would come to the door at least. So then Derek goes towards the doorknob, turns it, and it unlocks. It's completely unlocked. Tasia immediately knows, wait, this is not like my brother. My brother locks every single door. He's gonna make sure that door is locked. There's no reason why it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So they open the door and they're like, David. Hey, David. No response. David, are you here? No response. And you could tell she's got a mother's instinct and a sister's instinct. And she's like, something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And she immediately backs up and she tells Derek, hold on. We can't go in there. Let me call my dad and let me call Samir, which is his ex, the baby's mother.
Yeah.
Let me call them because I think we need to all go in there together. Something instinctually is telling her that something's awry and she's not going to be able, she's probably going to be emotional and isn't going to pay attention. Let me get people to also have vantage points, like different vantage points. Mm-hmm. So she calls them up and they, with no hesitation, because this family is that kind of strong family.
That supportive family.
One moves, they all move.
Mm-hmm.
And so Samir and the dad make it to the apartment complex. So then they all make their way upstairs. As they make their way upstairs, they go straight into his room. David, and David's not there. They're like, oh, this is weird. The bed's not made. One thing that David is extremely clean. He is not one of those guys that where you walk into his place that maybe it's kind of clean, maybe. No, he's a neat freak. And that Samir and his sister know. So Samir then walks into the closet or is making her way to the closet and she can see, without paying attention, she can see that there's like some of his bedding is like stuffed in the closet. But everything around him, his shirts, his shoes, his pants, everything is nicely put together because that's how David is. Mm-hmm. Well, the bed's not made, but they're like, okay, the sister's like, this is weird. It just doesn't make any sense. So she then pulls the cover over. Like she gets the comforter and she moves it. And she's like, what's that at the bottom? She then goes on her knees and she looks under the bed and she sees a bloody red stain underneath the bed. She also noticed that the bed was moved. You know when your bed is moved when there's carpet on the floor, mm-hmm. because it leaves like the indentation, right, of the four corners. Mm-hmm. So she was like, wait, this bed is moved. That doesn't make any sense. So she immediately gets up, then pulls the pillow over. As she moves the pillow, she sees a red bloody stain. And in that bloody stain is a gunshot. You could tell it's a little circle, but you could tell that it's a gunshot, mm-hmm. nonetheless. They all step back. The dad happened to be a soldier, and he was like, hold on, stop. At the same time, Samir happens to close the door, and she notices that there's also another circle on the closet door. And he's all, everybody get out of the house. We can't be in here anymore. He instinctually knew This is a crime scene.
Yep.
Something's happened. We don't know if David's part of this. We don't know if David did something. We don't know if something's done to David. We just got to get out of the house. So they immediately call the police. And don't think that, I already told you how this family is. Don't think they're going to sit aside while everyone's not doing anything. No, they are full force at this point. They call the police. Police start investigating like that. They immediately bring somebody and they're like, what's going on? Where is there like this? Tasia is calling and calling. She's calling everybody. Hey, how is it? But the first person she immediately calls is his girlfriend, Tammy. And mind you, Tammy at this point she calls him. She's like, hey, do you know where David is? We're looking for David. Something's happened. We don't know what's going on. And she answers and she's like, no, I haven't seen him since Sunday. Why? She's all, but something's happened and we don't know what's going on. Oh, okay. And leaves it like that. His sister is not thinking like that. Tasia's more like in the focus of, I gotta find my brother.
Yeah.
I think she's also trying to play detective, but at the same time, she's just trying to see where he is.
Because you're not thinking it's the girlfriend.
No.
At least she's not.
No, not at this point. So they went to Melvindale Police because that's where it's all going on. Melvindale is the city in Michigan. And as they call and they're calling, because you could tell that they're like, you call the morgue, you call the hospitals, let's all try to figure it out. And as they're all trying to figure it out, the family doesn't get answers. No, nobody's here. No, we don't have a David. No, I'm sorry, we don't have anybody like that. Just no after no after no. But this is all in one day. They are working tirelessly. So mind you, the 28th was on Sunday. Fast forward up to on October 1st of 2018. This is only a few days later. There were remains found south of Findlay by Ohio Department of Transportation. A crew member happened to be cutting the grass. You know how they cut the grass for the city? Well, they happened to be cutting the grass by 235, which is northbound in the rest area of I-75, which is about only an hour and a half away from where David Carter was missing. So they happened to come across a body bag, or you know those zip bags that you go camping in.
Oh, the sleeping bags.
Sleeping bags. I'm sorry, I said body bag, right?
Yeah.
I meant to say sleeping bag. Sorry.
Oh, so dang,
No.
I'm assuming.
I'm sorry. It was a sleeping bag. It happened to be a blue sleeping bag with silver duct tape on like one end and then silver duct tape on the other end. In between was this shape. The guy gets off and he's like, the crew member's like, that's weird. I can't cut the grass with that right there. So it just seems weird. So he then calls over to his other coworker and he's like, hey, can you take a look at this? And the coworker's like, wait, this feels heavy. Wait. And he's like, wait a minute. Let's not touch this. What if there's animals? And then he says, wait, what if there's a child in there?
Oh, God.
Because it's like the size. It's
the way that it's wrapped up.
It's not the size of a grown human being or an adult.
Yes.
So all he's thinking is that there's a child in there. So of course they immediately call the police because it's an hour and a half away. It's not in Melvindale. So they call the police. And of course the police get there and they call the coroner. The coroner gets there. They take that sleeping bag to the coroner's office, and that's when they begin the investigation. Diane is the coroner, Diane Scala Burnett, who is she's in Lucas County, and she begins investigating, and she immediately says she finds a lower torso part, which means like from here down, and as well as the legs. And she's like, okay. So she immediately starts measuring the I don't know how you would measure, but she measures, and she says, you can tell that this is a tall person. She said he happens to be of African American descent, or at least biracial, but because of the skin color and the nose.
It's so crazy, right? How they can just distinguish all of that by measurements and bones, and it fathoms me. I get excited, sorry.
No, I do too. Not in the sense of like we get excited because they're murdered.
No, but just how they figure it out with just bones.
Exactly, yeah. Because it's so weird to see, because she has the lower torso, and she gets straight to work. One thing she did notice that was obvious in the leg part on the left leg was that there was a tattoo, and the tattoo was of a pit bull, a black pit bull with red eyes. So Diana then sends the information back to Melvindale Police, because she had already heard that there was a missing person in Melvindale. So she sends the information over there, and she's like, okay, you do with what you may with this, but this is what we found. So the Melvindale Police Department then calls Mr. Carter, which is, of course, David Carter's dad. And he says, hey, can we talk to you for a minute? Do you mind coming down to the police department? And I'm assuming that it's a small populated city. And the dad instinctually knows. Hey, he goes, as a soldier, you're used to...
It's like you're trained to get those calls. Like, it's not always...
Well, not the calls, but he's trained to lose friends.
Okay.
And for people, when people have died, he's used to it. He said, so he gets the call, and he says, they tell him, can you go down? And he says, we have to ask you a question about a tattoo. And Mr. Carter says, is the tattoo a pit bull with red eyes? And they tell him over the phone, yes, it is. So you found him. And he immediately knew that that was his son. And mind you, but he didn't know to what extent.
Yeah.
All he knew was a yes. So of course he hangs up and just cries in tears. And he relays the information to his wife, and his wife is going through chemo and so forth. And she can't, the last thing they want to tell her is that her son
has been found.
Yeah, the body's found. So David's no longer alive. And he said, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I'm used to like seeing people dead in front of me, or having to tell people that they're dead. He said, but when it's your child, and he just begins to cry. So they relay the information to Derek, the husband, which is the husband to Tasia. He doesn't know what to do, so he gets off the car, because they tell him to tell her, because they didn't just want to tell her. So Derek gets off the car, and she said, I saw him. I saw the way his face looked and dropped, and the way he was walking to me. I knew that was my brother. The information he was about to tell me was that he's dead. She said, he grabbed me, and he said, he's dead. I'm sorry. And they just cried and cried and cried and cried. So after they find this out, this is the information where I want to put a pause right there, because I want you to quickly go back a few days to explain Tammy a little bit. So before the murders, just a couple of weeks before, David had he called his female cousin, and he was like, hey, do you want to go catch a movie? And she's like, yeah, let's go. So she gets in the car. They drive to the movie theater and they are minding their business. Well, after the movie, they get out of the movie and they go walk towards back to David's car, and they notice that all 4 tires were slashed. And if I haven't explained Tammy enough to you, if Tammy knew that even if she was the cousin, she was the type of person that was very jealous. It didn't care. And one of them did state that they didn't care. Tammy didn't care if it was your son, your brother, your cousin, your dad. If you were spending time with somebody other than her and she wasn't present, then you were cheating. You're a horrible human being. We know that person. I can name you that person. That's how much I can relate to this Tammy character, because I could not stand her. Not that I knew Tammy, but I can't stand the person that they're like that, that they're jealous of your own family members. So fast forward to September 28th, 2018, which is like 3 days after David's which is only a few days, right? David's remains are found. They gathered at DJ's football game, right? Because DJ wasn't going to go play football because it was only his body was just found. A few days later, he's got to go play football. DJ was like, no, I'm not going to go. His coach asked him, can you handle this? If you can't, I understand. Just take a break. And DJ's like, no, my dad always said, keep going. Don't ever let anything stop you. Keep going. And I remember my grandmother telling me that, don't let anybody stop you. Don't just keep going. So I see the motivation. He said when he walked onto the grass, that the whole crowd cheered him on. And he said it almost felt like everybody was my family that day. He said, and I played so well that day, it almost felt like I wasn't playing. He said it almost felt like my dad was playing. It didn't feel like I was. He said, and you could tell he's a good football player, but he said that day I just felt like I was doing moves that I don't know how to explain, that I've never done before. He said, but I was charged up and it felt like my father was playing for me. And it describes how even in these moments, his son can muster up the courage to go say, I do this for you. So, mind you, Tasia is going through it. Yes, she's present at the football game. Yes, they're all huddled there. But you could tell that the whole family is just at a loss for words on their pain. Now, I know that when I'm listening to a podcast, a lot of the time when I hear that officers have to keep a lot of the information close to the chest, meaning they can't share public information. But at the same time, Tasia is calling and calling and calling and calling. Let us know anything. It has to be this. Tell us, give us information. They are not saying anything. Well,
because sometimes it could have ruined the investigation, because as much as you want to say, let's just say you do find out information and you can actually act on that information and make it worse. So sometimes that's why it's kept like, hold on, we're investigating. I promise you we'll do the best that we can. So I can see why they're still holding on, because can you imagine? She would probably react real quick.
And I think this is the part that she was reacting. I think she wanted to react a specific way, Tasia, but was also thinking smart, right? But she did call the police one time and said, look, I think you need to look at Tammy. Tammy is a suspect. Please look at Tammy. And the officer was just like, okay.
Ugh.
And it's not that quick gratification that somebody wants to hear. It's also that they're not telling her much. So you're leaving her in the dark, that they're going to start thinking whatever they want. So what they do is they do find out that they finally do arrest Tammy. And the whole family is elated. They are jumping. The son runs around and he's He starts crying. He's so happy because they all know that Tammy did it. Well, just 72 hours later, Tammy gets released. And they're like, what the it's a slap in the face to the whole family. They're like, why did you release her? But the officers were like, we don't have evidence. We can't point out that it was Tammy. We'll question her and we'll hold her as much as we can. But honestly, we can't hold her past that because there's nothing tying her to David. So 2 days after they released Tammy, on October 10th, 2018, they found another body part just south of that. Do you remember where I said on I-75?
No. I'm sorry, when you say direct, I do not have sense of direction, so
She doesn't listen. It's okay. That's one thing that stuck with me, and I get it. You don't. It's not something that sticks out to you. But when I looked at the map, it's almost as far apart, pinky. Like if you put your little pinky, your pinky nail to it, a cut pinky nail. If you put it, it is that far apart, which is only a few miles away from each other. So of course they take that bag to the coroner's office.
This time it's a bag.
Well, this time it is a bag.
Okay.
It's not. So to describe this bag, it's a black duffel bag, right?
Oh, okay. Oh.
And you can tell it's like a working duffel bag. And it's almost looks like something where you would keep tools in.
Yes.
It's a true religion bag. It has red straps, but they take this body bag to the coroner's office. They open it up. Inside is a trash bag. So they pull the trash bag out and they notice that the trash bag, it was covered and tied at the bottom, right? So they untie it, they remove it, and they find David Carter's head.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry if I didn't do trigger warning to that. I am so sorry, but that's true. It's going to start getting worse on details. I'm not trying to scare you and I'm not trying to, but these are the parts that I'm going to show you. And these are the things that you also need to hear because it tells you how horrible humans are. Some humans are.
Exactly. I was just like, oh my God, how to cut the... Oh.
Yeah. And automatically she's like, well, we have the lower torso. We have his head. It's him. But on October 16, which was only a few days later, they found the rest of the remains on Interstate 75, which was also the rest of the torso inside a floral multicolor suitcase. So it's like big flowers all over it. It has a lot of colors on it. And inside that was the top torso with the arms in it. Diane Scalia Burnett says, when I got the head, I immediately started investigating it. And sure enough, this is something that's going to start getting a little gruesome. So if this bothers you, fast forward a few seconds. So on YouTube, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So on the gunshot wound, she said, once I've gotten all the body parts, I can get into the torso part and see what's in his intestines. And she noticed that in his intestines was a antihistamine, which of course makes you sleepy. It's already in his system. Well, however, it was in there. But when she found the head, there's a bullet wound that was right behind the ear that went from here up. So the bullet wound entered behind the ear on the left side of his face and exited the top of his head. So she said, as I'm piecing these things together, you could tell that the person either knew what they were going to do, either David took a sleeping pill and fell asleep, or was given a sleeping pill and then shot. She goes, it was almost at what is it called? At close range. Because she said the shot was so close that you had to get in there and pop it. She said, as he popped it, that's how you knew the exit wound.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where he was facing, to be honest. I don't know how he was facing, how the bullet went from the head to the closet door.
So it's either he was either laying like the, I'm just gonna assume because of the way, so the way that the gunshot where you're placing it. So it's either he was faced like this or his whole body was turned. But I'm assuming it's probably like this if it went straight that way.
Correct. It had to have been, so it was on his side of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own sides,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're facing the bed, it was on the left side is where the blood was splattered.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how that was adjacent to, because I didn't have a blueprint of how that got to the door. I have no idea. But all I can tell you is that the coroner was like, this is a dismembered body.
Mm-hmm. That's what's getting me.
6'4" man, 190 pounds. So he's slender, but more like a jock fit. You know the fit slender
Because,
man.
I mean, 6'4" is still a lot of weight for a man.
Correct.
Regardless of how thin you are.
And she said just the bottom torso alone was 70-something pounds. So you've got to, because you can't take out to me, this is the things that starts breaking it down. Where did this come from?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, nobody else heard the gunshot?
Mm-hmm.
Where did the gunshot end up? It was an apartment complex. Where did it land?
Mm-hmm.
How come they didn't hear how his body was dismembered? You can't just dismember a body.
You can't, no.
So Diane, the coroner said, it's going to take a while. For you to dismember a body like this, it's going to take a while. And she said, by the cuts of it, my assumption is that his body parts were dismembered by a kitchen knife.
Oh.
So that means, let me tell you, and I don't mean to be grotesque.
No, it's because I'm imagining it in my head because it's like, it's just a kitchen knife.
Correct. Yesterday, I was making lollipop drumsticks. And I was cutting at the end of it.
Yeah.
I was cutting the skin part of the end of that drumstick. I was trying to pull
I saw you. Yeah,
the skin off of that part so it looks like a lollipop at the end. It was so hard to get off that I was having to cut. If that was hard, I can't even imagine our skin and then the bones. You're going to take your time. This is starting to add up little by little.
Mm-hmm.
Why he was sick, why he couldn't make it, why she needed more time. It's now starting little by little to add up, which makes sense.
I wonder what she was throwing in the dumpster when DJ saw her. Just wondering.
I don't think it was the body because remember they found it on I-75.
No. With evidence or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Well, when the cops did come, remember when they first called?
Yeah.
They did search in the dumpsters.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that they mentioned, but they just didn't say if they found anything.
Okay.
Which I understand they can't tell you. So I personally think this is more than enough information to say Tammy is involved.
Yes.
Some way, somehow, she is involved. Now, I do want to mention that his sister does say, you know what? With all this going on, she calls. Tasia calls Tammy and says, look, I need to know. Did you have anything to do with my brother's disappearance? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm surprised she answered the phone.
Mind you, she's been working this entire time. She was a traveling nurse, like a phlebotomist.
Makes sense.
And she was also a travel agent. The reason I didn't want to tell you that is because I wanted you to know at the end what she did and how she was able to travel. Mm-hmm. I wonder if she went through I-75 a lot because she is very familiar to be comfortable enough to get off, carry the 70-something pound bottom of the torso, throw it, drive, throw another.
That's what I felt like. She just drove and just threw all these body
Correct.
parts.
But how do you know that it's an empty road or a deserted road or a dark road enough to get away with it? Right? Well, Tammy's response after she asked that was, I don't know. I have nothing to do with it. But she still didn't help. And so the sister said, if I find out that you had anything to do with this, I'm coming for you. And I honestly think it's one of those situations that, I'm sorry, I think I would have reacted the exact same way. I would have been that angry. You have anything to do with my siblings or my best friend's disappearance? I'm coming for you. Lock me up. Now, I do want to mention that cops did state that on October 16th of 2018, because I'm going to go ahead and just ruin this for you. Tammy was released, and then nobody could find her.
She disappeared. Not disappeared, but went on the run?
Correct. Now, you remember between that time when their body was barely getting found? In between that time, Tammy was already making moves.
Of course she is.
So in between that time, because police officers went back to look to see what she was doing on those days. They still can't find her, but when they did call Tammy's family, because she has 2 twin kids, a boy and a girl, and she had called the family members and everybody, and the officer said, I know that they're helping her. Because every time we call, we don't know where she is. We don't know where she is. We don't know where she is. You mean to tell me you're protecting a woman who is that horrible in life that she's willing to murder
and dismember
and get rid of the bodies? She had to see the whole blood, cut that up, crack those bones, throw them separately in bags, and get rid of them. And you're protecting her? I hope and I pray that they find her, just so you can at least feel what that family's going through. You're protecting somebody who shouldn't be protected. And I hope she has what she has coming to her, because you're protecting a human being who's willing to do that. What makes you think she's not willing to do it to your family? Well, so officers then go back and they take a look at her credit cards and the ATM withdrawals and so forth. So they noticed that she went from Michigan to Ann Arbor, Michigan. How that far I normally check, it's not too far. But because of the credit card purchases and ATM withdrawals, they noticed that she went to Ann Arbor, got onto and because I know you don't know directions, right? I'm just helping you out.
Yeah.
She goes this way to Ann Arbor, right? Gets on a Amtrak, which is a train, takes it to Chicago. So she's going left, right? From Chicago, then she gets another Amtrak. She makes her way all the way over here to New York.
So it's like a go around. Okay.
Correct. If you didn't have anything to do with it, why the fuck are you going left to right?
Yeah, it's like you're doing a little like.
Correct. Why not just go from Michigan to New York?
Yeah.
If you had nothing to do with it, you're just working, go from there to New York. If you had work, how come they can't track it because of work? If you're a traveling agent or something, how come they can't track it and find you that way? Now, when she does get to New York, she stays in a hotel room. She goes to this hotel. It's called the Neptune Hotel. She gets there on October 17th. She stays the night. But before she stays the night, to rent the room, she gives her a driver's license. Her ID, she gives it over. And October 18th, the next day, she leaves. And after October 18th, after the withdrawals and so forth, they can't track her. They can't find her. They can't do anything. Something tells me she has either family, friends, somewhere. She had a plan.
Yeah.
And her plan was to get to New York. After I get to New York, I'm going to disappear.
Because you can go down. You can go anywhere.
Correct.
You can go up. You can go down.
She can leave the country if
That's
she
what I'm
really
saying.
wanted
Yeah.
to. New York's not far from the border.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways, and there are
She could go
plenty of
down.
ways.
Yeah, she could travel by water.
Now, she is. I want to mention this. Tammy Williams. She's a black female. She's 5'5", approximately 100 to 200 pounds. But I'm sure at this point she probably already lost a lot of weight.
One looks different.
Yeah. Yeah. You are good at this, honey. You have been transitioning me really well. One thing her sister has said, and the people around her, is that she was almost like a chameleon. She was able to switch her face all the time. She would go from short hair to long blonde hair, to brunette, to a redhead, to glasses, to no glasses, to... They said she just was able to switch her looks up. One thing she couldn't switch up, and one thing she can be noticed by, is that on her left top arm, she had like a bouquet of red roses on her. And they were noticeable because there was like about 4 or 5 roses all over her arm. She's not stupid. More likely, she's going to get that either covered, or she's going to get a cover tattoo over it.
Or just wear completely...
Oh, that's what I mean by covered.
Oh, okay.
Meaning she's never going to expose the tattoos. Yeah. So she'll wear long sleeve for the rest of the time. Something that the officer said is that somebody had to cover that up. Mm-hmm. But if she knew someone, of course they're not going to rat her out. Mm-hmm. But if she didn't and she went to a tattoo parlor, she had that covered. She had to have. So somebody knows somebody. Tammy is going to mess up. She's going to mess up. Mm-hmm. She already gave out her driver's license. I don't know if it was on purpose. To showcase like, oh, here, I'm going to actually be in New York, and then makes her way to Chicago. Because why Chicago? Right?
Yeah, because it makes no sense because you're going, it's like a roundabout.
Correct.
Versus just going straight down.
Something, because when she got to Ann Arbor, one thing I didn't tell you is that she was there. She went to go have dinner, went to have drinks. She was minding her business.
Gross. It's so gross.
They see her just there. And when she's done, she's just there for a while. Just there. I think she was there planning her next move. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even if it was at the last minute, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Tammy is... I'm going to put her picture after this on YouTube. So if you want to see it, go to YouTube and you can see her face. Police have always said that, well, that the tattoo might be covered, but Tammy is still on the run as of today. As of today, she is America's most top wanted. She's like top number 5. And because she did this and they cannot find the knife.
Or the gun, because remember, he has a gunshot.
Correct. What's that called? Sorry, I didn't write that down. But because she...
Armed and Dangerous?
Armed and Dangerous.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I was like, where is it going? If anyone is out here, has a tip or is willing or sees Tammy, because she had been seen in the beginning, and that's how they got some of the calls. If you see Tammy, please call the U.S. Marshal Services at 1-877-WANTED-2, the number 2. So that's 1-877-WANTED-2, the number 2. So please and thank you. Now I do want to close this off by saying this much. First of all, I hope they catch Tammy. She needs to pay the price. Mm-hmm. If you're out there, your family, if you're related to Tammy, understand that she also has to pay the consequences for her actions. Mm-hmm. Because then what are we teaching her kids? Is that they can get away with it as well. Mm-hmm. I want to leave this with Tammy's I mean, not Tammy, I'm sorry, David Carter. David Carter's funeral was so beautiful. They had it at a they had it at an auditorium.
Okay.
That auditorium, they had his, of course, his body in the casket at the top. You know how you get up onto the stage?
Yes.
The dad said that it was so packed by all the loved ones he had touched that it was a standing crowd on even on the aisles. There was no room to stand. Entire seats were all the way up, full, because that's how much David Carter was loved. Thank you to the family. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope Tammy gets found soon. Thank you for listening. Dame un besito. We gotta go.
Bye,
Bye, guys.